Are you someone who gets very excited about having your own product? Do you want to get into the product industry? Are you somebody looking out at making your own product but don't really know what and how to start? So this video is for you. In this video, I'll be talking about the ABCs of product development, ideation, and how do you go to market with your created in product. This video will help you understand how do you approach your idea of a product itself, what would you want to make, what industry should you tap into, and how do you go about the whole process. Let me start by telling you that developing an original product and bringing it to market is not a straight line. Everyone has different variables like budget and industry. So there is no blueprint to this process, but there are similarities in approaches that founders take. So today I'll be talking about 6 steps that have been consistently used by entrepreneurs to launch successful products. The product development process can be broken down into 6 steps. Ideation, second is research, third is planning, prototyping, next is sourcing, the last is costing. The first step is to come up with the idea. Even though this is the first step, many entrepreneurs get stuck here because oftentimes we are waiting for that one genius idea. Obviously, building on a new product is a very fulfilling journey, but keep in mind that most of the successful products in the market today have been iterations upon an existing product. So for example, the Dyson Airwrap, in my opinion, is one of the best inventions. But was it a very new product or a unique blow dryer? No, there have been blow dryers in the market forever. But they iterated with innovation. Keep in mind that though building a brand new product could be fulfilling, you could actually use the SCAMPER model, come up with product ideas. The SCAMPER model basically says substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put another, use, eliminate, or reverse. You could use the SCAMPER model to develop a new product. From the SCAMPER model, each letter starts the prompt, and you might want to ask yourself the following questions. S stands for substitute. Ask yourself what material could be substituted in the existing product to make it better, or an alternate use case of an existing product. Can this product be used somewhere else as well? Next is combine. You want to ask yourself, if you combine one product with another product, will it create something that is a useful outcome? Let's say if you combine a shirt with a pant and create a jumpsuit, does it solve any new purpose? Does it fulfill any objective? And ask yourself, what would happen if you combine purposes and objectives? Example of combine could be that earbuds weren't new, neither was Bluetooth technology, but combining them together gave us Bluetooth AirPods. Next up is adapt. That talks about tweaking an existing product. So ask yourself, what do we need to change in order to get better results? Let's say the product itself is not the problem, but the supply is just not enough of the product in the market, and then you would probably tap into the manufacturing of the product, and the product still remains the same. Next is modify. In this, you want to ask yourself, how do you modify systems and processes to disrupt the current industry? This step makes you think about the bigger picture, not just the product itself. So you ask yourself, how can you change the process in order to make it more efficient? If the market was different, how would the process look like then? So let's look at Netflix as an example. Netflix modified the market in terms of how they viewed movies competing with conventional theaters. Next is put it to another use. So we talked about this briefly earlier, but what this essentially means is how can you use put an existing product into a different use case or in a different industry. Ask yourself, what are the benefits of a particular product if used elsewhere? We recycle an industry's waste into making a new product for another industry. Next is eliminate. So ask yourself, what would happen if you removed a specific part? And if you had to strip down a product to its essentials, what parts of the products would you absolutely keep? And the last one is reverse. So innovation can happen simply by reversing the order of its process. What would happen if we produce this backwards? How could we rearrange these steps for a better outcome? As you're doing this exercise, keep in mind, someone said there's nothing new under the sun, but there's a lot of old stuff that we don't know about. This is a great way to scan your existing market, products, and iterate and have a product of your own. Step 2 is research. Now you've done your exercise, and the next step is to validate your idea based on some research that you would do. Your whole goal behind doing this is to finally create a product that people will be willing to buy. With your new idea, you might feel super excited and just straight away get into production, but that could really mess you up if you fail to validate your idea first. Product validation ensures that you're creating a product that people would want to pay for. This protects you from wasting your time, money, resources, and effort on trying to build something that you might really like and see use for, but others don't. And there are several ways that you can validate your product idea. One way to do it is crowdfunding. If you can get a stranger to be interested enough to want to invest in your business, it sure enough speaks well about your product and shows interest. Crowdfunding is a great way to test your product. You can use Kickstarter for your crowdfunding campaign. Also, make sure that you're constantly asking for feedback. You could just send Google Forms. Make sure to take as many feedbacks as you can while you're developing your product. It gives you a perspective on how different people view your product and service differently, and you might find different use cases for your own product. They might help you highlight problem areas which are very nuanced and small, which you must have overlooked. You could also use Google Trends to get hard data about what people are searching for, what they're talking about, what are their needs, etc. So for example, you have made a product which lets vegetables be fresh for a longer time. So on Google Trends, you can just type how do you keep vegetables fresh for a longer time. And if you see that a lot of people have searched for it, then you know that there is a need for it. But you should also know that you can never 100% validate an idea. There will always be external factors that cannot be foreseen or accounted for. That being said, however you go about validating your idea, it's important to get feedback from a substantial and an unbiased audience to whether they would actually buy your product. Be wary of getting swayed away by people who would definitely buy and just focusing on what they have to say. Speak to people from various different backgrounds and welcome different kinds of feedbacks. Validating your idea also inevitably would lead to competition analysis. If you have a very good idea, chances are that there are already competitors in your industry and competing for what you are. So keeping a close eye on what your competition is doing and how are they approaching their marketing and how are they going to the market would give you a fair idea about what the current scenario is. After doing competition analysis and validating your idea, you would be able to answer these two questions. First is there a demand and need for my product? And second is, do I have a differentiating factor? And once you have answered both these questions, then you would be moving on to the next step, which is planning. You finally reach a manufacturer to develop your first prototype. You want to have a concrete idea of what your product is going to be like and what are the elements that it would have. So it's important to take a step back and think this through before you jump into prototyping. The best place to begin planning is to start with a hand-drawn sketch of what your product would look like. Leave no stone unturned. The sketch should be as detailed as possible. Once you have a sketch and a list of elements that you want to add in your product, you would probably want to segment into what kind of materials would you use, what quality grades that you want to go for, what are the options available in the market, what are the raw materials that you would require. You would think about the packaging, the labeling, the compliances that would go along with the product. Doing this in advance before you prototype or get into production would help you not waste a lot of money in reiterating your prototype and come as close to your final model before you get into production. Most of the times you would figure that a lot of things get changed in the planning stage as well. So instead of reiterating on a prototype, you would have already thought it through and gone through multiple sketches and drafts till you reach a product which is close to the final product, which is more robust in nature. This would just help you cut some corners. Also, it would generate a lot of ideas for marketing as well. When you reach a stage of prototyping, where do you get your prototype done from? It would heavily depend on the product. One of the places that you could use in India, manufacturers for something that you're trying to build on IndiaMart or on Google. speak to platforms like Just Diet to help you with some local manufacturers and vendors. A simple Google research should suffice to help you build a basic prototype. And to build something more complex and technical, many universities also have their research labs, their tech labs, and facilitated with good quality machinery and the resources that you would be requiring to develop your first prototype. These universities do encourage and let you in services like website designing, graphic designing, designing your packaging, labeling, coding, so on so forth. You can find great freelancers at freelancer.com or Upwork, Fiverr. These are very good portals to find somebody who will be flexible enough to work with you on a prototype and reiterate till. If you are somebody who wants to do all the design work by yourself, Canva is a great tool. ChatGPT can take care of all your content. The next part is sourcing step. You would probably now be finding the right manufacturing partners for yourself. Bear in mind that always have 2 or 3 manufacturing partners with you, so that if anything goes wrong with one, let's say they decide to raise the price on you, or the minimum order quantity to be higher, lesser, if anything goes wrong with one manufacturer, your business doesn't come crashing down, and you always have backup to continue your supply. At this stage, you would also be looking at your shipping partners, your vendors, your raw material suppliers. So basically, you're putting together a team at this point. The best way to find your vendors, it might sound traditional, is trade shows. Rely heavily on trade shows to find the right partners. It also gives you an advantage to meet your vendors one-on-one, develop a relationship, touch and feel the material, and negotiate. Trade fairs and trade shows would ideally be the best place for you to find your vendors and your partners. Have done all of that. Once you have sourced and created a prototype, it would have given you a fair idea about how much it would cost to you to build the product that you're trying to build. What are the market standards? How much is your raw material going to cost? Your shipping charges, your overheads, the unit that you're going to put together. Last stage then you would arrive to while developing your product is costing. So for costing, what you would like to do is make a list of all the expenses that are going to be incurred by you, from raw material to storage to labor to human resource, duties, taxes, your shipping cost, your variable cost, and your fixed expenses. If you have more questions related to the idea phase or prototyping or testing your product, please drop in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching.